lone hope for our race lay with the Allspark, the keeper of our history. But with its destruction, only fragments now remain.
After 2007's disappointing adaptation of the blockbuster film Transformers, games have nowhere to go but up. It's hard to believe that you can go wrong with so enticing a concept as transforming robots, but so far, it's proven elusive. Hot alongside the theatrical release of Transformers Revenge of the Fallen comes yet another game adaptation. Are a new developer and a rethought approach enough to do the concept right?
The fallen shall rise again. NSA Chief Galloway has revealed Megatron's location to our enemies.
He's 6 miles underwater in the Laurentian Abyss. The site's guarded by a carrier group and airport surveillance. He's unreachable.
It may come as no surprise, but the Decepticons weren't completely defeated at the end of the first Transformers film. They just went back to Cybertron to regroup. Revenge of the Fallen has the miscreant robots returning to Earth to raise a little more hell. You can play as either the Autobots or Decepticons, and for the most part the story follows the film's beat loosely, filling in some parts and taking liberties where it has to, like during the Decepticon endgame. If you haven't seen the film, well, get ready for some goofy lessons in Cybertronian prehistory. The story is mainly told through pre- and post-mission cutscenes, and it's a lot easier to follow if you're familiar with the movie. Frankly though, the game structure doesn't lend itself particularly well to linear storytelling, and that's fine. You probably aren't watching Transformers movies for engrossing narratives, let alone playing their game adaptations.
Yes, the human female will soon be ours, as will the shard she possesses. With the Allspark, this world will fall, and we will finally take our rightful place as the rulers over all!
Nest 1, this is Sergeant Epps. I'm over southeast Shanghai at 1,200 feet. No visual, but something's down there. Probably cloaked. IR SIGs at 4 bars. Over.
In both the Autobot and Decepticon campaigns, you'll be fighting through a series of 23 missions spread across 14 different locales, from the smoggy streets of a West Coast city that looks a lot like LA to the ancient pyramids of Egypt. There isn't a whole lot of difference between the two campaigns apart from the characters you get to play, and in many cases both factions' versions of a particular mission match objective for objective.
Bring Megatron closer to life!
Though the missions differ in content, they all take place in open-ended maps, and you typically have free reins in terms of where you want to roam. The exception being scenarios where you'll have to escort friendly units or race through a series of checkpoints. In most, you simply have to fight off wave after wave of enemy robots until something happens, be it the revelation of a person of interest's hiding spot.
Look, I've got a piece of the Allspark. I think that's what they're after.
Or the commencement of a boss fight.
I order you to attack!
You get bonus Energon to spend on upgrades if you finish missions quickly, or pull off certain special objectives, but for the most part, it all gets repetitive pretty quickly. Most single-player missions end up feeling more like bot-populated multiplayer shooter maps than anything else, or else something out of Twisted Metal, and not in a good way. Not surprisingly, Revenge of the Fallen is a lot more rewarding when you're playing against real people. There aren't any surprises when it comes to multiplayer modes. Free-for-all deathmatch and a team variant, as well as takes on Capture the Flag and Capture and Hold, are all represented. The most interesting, as well as the one that seems to be getting the most play online, is a take on Gears of War 2's Guardian mode called One Shall Stand. The premise is simple. On each team, one player is randomly chosen to play as Optimus Prime or Megatron. So long as they're alive, their teammates respawn freely. Once they're down, though, the dead people stay dead. If you're thrust into the leader's position, rest assured that everyone will be gunning for you.
All fire on the Decepticons!
If nothing else, One Shall Stand inspires a more earnest level of teamwork online than any of the others. Though the multiplayer matches can feel a little lean with their 8-player limit, Revenge of the Fallen has enough going for it in terms of novel game mechanics to keep the experience fresh. At least, on the short term.
It is possible that the risks we are undertaking may be too great. It is true. Even in victory, we have lost much oil.
They may feel weird at first, but once you get a handle on Revenge of the Fallen's controls, you'll effortlessly pull off cool, gratifying moves.
I actually enjoyed that.
When you think about all the actions that had to be shoehorned onto a standard controller, shooting, jumping, melee attacks, specials, and all the transformation-specific functions, it's a wonder it all works without feeling totally cumbersome. Whether the robot you're controlling changes into a car, jet, or chopper, you'll enjoy a satisfying level of mobility. If your alternate form is a car, you can transform in midair or propel yourself sky high with a special jump move. Airborne characters, meanwhile, can pull off cool aerial stunts to dodge attacks and change into their robot forms in flight to ground pound their enemies. As befitting the verticality that most maps are designed around, all robots can wall crawl. And while it seems a bit strange, it's hard to think of any other way to reconcile the inherent disadvantage between characters that can fly and those that can't. It may take a while to become proficient enough to bust out the coolest moves, but once you're there, you get a whole lot more out of the combat in Revenge of the Fallen. Sure, it all amounts to pounding on a bunch of overwrought dummies in single player, but when you take the fight online, the combat system's depth feels welcome. If you like the way that Michael Bay's Transformers look, then you'll be fine with their faithful video game recreations. Though they don't quite make sense visually when you look at them, their transformation animations translate well too.
They stand in our way!
The voice work, though, is kind of spotty. The robots sound okay for the most part, but the human cast has come up short.
You did it! You saved me, and you saved the Allspark. I can't believe Sam stuck me with this thing. I'm gonna kill him.
Both Shia LaBeouf and Megan Fox lent their voices to the production, but they couldn't sound less into it.
B, you gotta get me out of here.
There's also an audio issue during the cutscenes that makes it really hard to hear what some of the robots are saying. You can turn the volume way up if you really want to listen to what they're saying, but be careful. If you're not quick enough on the mute, you'll be blasted with an earful of Optimus.
Without the Allspark fragment or petroleum, the Decepticons are about to run out.
It doesn't take long to get bored of plotting through Revenge of the Fallen single-player campaigns, and given its competition, it probably isn't realistic to expect the multiplayer game to steal players from some of the longest-lived stalwarts out there. There's some stuff tucked in there that'll please devout fans, but most everyone else will be ready to move on after a few hours.